Kia ora and welcome to the Trends Property Insight series. I'm your host, Andrew Johnson, and on this episode, we unravel the fascinating world of interior textiles, from the technology that ensures performance to the beauty that defines our living spaces. Joining me is Dan Moir, the New Zealand Sales Director for James Dunlop Textiles, a company with over a century of passion for quality fabrics. All right, well, Dan, thanks very much for taking some time to sit down with me.
Pleasure, Andrew. Nice to be here.
Hey, now, you've got an interesting story because James Dunlop Textiles has got an incredibly long history here in New Zealand, and that's actually a family story for you. And it's been a deep curiosity of exploring how fabrics can affect our lives here in New Zealand for almost 110 years.
Yeah, truth be told, coming up 120 in a few. So,
Right.
yeah, great-grandfather James Dunlop registered the company in 1907, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And very proud to be fifth generation of a family business. Still in the trenches fighting year to year.
And it appears that the employees also kind of feel like family who work there as well. It's a bit of a family culture all in all, isn't it?
Of course, I think any successful business attributes its success to its team. So we're no exception. Very much so treat everyone here and abroad around the world as family and try and install those traits.
So for you on a day-to-day basis, what does your role involve at James Dunlop?
So as sales director, my primary focus is our domestic market here in New Zealand, working with my sales team up and down the country to serve the New Zealand design community and making sure together we make looking good easy is how we summarize that.
Nice.
And also with the passion project on the growth of North America. So we have three brands in our staple. Mokum is a beautiful luxury high-end residential brand. We refer to it as our tastemaker. James Dunlop Textiles is our longest-standing namesake brand. It's our heritage. And my sister Annie Moir is the creative director of the James Dunlop brand, doing a phenomenal job out of Sydney, Australia. And it honestly makes my job a breeze with beautiful
Not many
textiles.
brothers say that about their sisters.
Yeah, no, she is the talented one for sure. And our third brand is called Zepel Fabrics, based out of Melbourne. And that's our innovator. And it's a brilliant brand that transcends all sorts of market segments, but brings technology into the product to add USPs or attributes that consumers are very much so asking of a textile these days.
You have a statement around the sense of fabrics with a sense of purpose for the company. What does that mean to you, that sentence for James Dunlop Textiles?
Well, fundamentally, it's about being able to cater to local design and trend needs, but with an underperforming expectation around performance and longevity. So we have three brands with three studios that all meet different consumer needs and target segments. And whilst at the end of the day, it's got a fashion lens, which is about aesthetic and beauty, and it has to be practical and stand the test of time. And that's where 100 plus years of procurement nous and relationship with beautiful artisanal mills around the world pays dividend. Yeah, and it's that trusted brand or trusted company for continuity of supply and longevity of durability.
Yeah, which must be very important to your customers. Obviously, they're delivering to their customers and making sure that they're all happy with the end outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, without repeat customers, there's no future.
That's right. And the design studios you've got are based in Australia and New Zealand. So does that Australasian lens give you a bit of an insight into what's happening with trends and the latest sort of stuff going on?
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah, so we often refer to ourselves on a global stage as being at the bottom of the world. So we get a unique perspective. We look up and out. And with that, we both take strong influence from local demand and local design aesthetics. That's obviously either currently in trend or will be following global macro themes, but we lean on plenty of international partnerships, whether it be customers and or suppliers and or specialists from a trend forecasting standpoint to quietly educate the direction we're going as a cluster of studios or a trio of studios.
And you touch on the idea of aesthetics and sort of the functionality or technology, and I suppose it's not something that most of us spend a lot of our day thinking about. We kind of see the pretty parts of what you do, but there's a heck of a lot of development and sort of technology behind some of the systems that people just take for granted around stain resistance and UV. So can you just talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you are developing and bringing to the market through the people that you work with?
Weaving textiles is one of the most artisanal, enduring arts around, next to painting and sketching and all those beautiful enduring art mediums. And in time, a lot of how things are produced hasn't actually changed, which is, I think, is really special. There's something very authentic about what we sell. What is radically changing are the demands from our customers, consumers, and how we live, the practicality and simplicity of our lifestyles. We're busy people and we just value an element of ease in our lifestyles. So what that means for textile design and technology is exactly that: serviceable, easy to live on and around, safe, no harmful chemicals, a little more traceability and transparency as to where things come from, and resilient, because here in Australasia we suffer from a thin ozone layer, as you know. It is recovering supposedly, but what that means is high levels of UV, and that just hammers our interiors. And typically your curtain, secondary to window glass treatments and UV films, is a front line of defense. So what that puts on us is an expectation to meet those UV factors. And so, dye stuffs the engineering of the fibre so it doesn't deteriorate and rot with high UV exposure. And I say doesn't rot, it's controlling the rate of rot. At the end of the day, we just get cooked down here, and excuse the simplistic terminology, but it is accurate, and it's about offering exceptional value for money in a product that will last a fair duration or exceed expectation, because ultimately, sadly, we, as we know through melanoma rates and other fairly scary indicators here in New Zealand, the UV exposure is just so extreme. So that thought process, that psyche of longevity is definitely at all of our fore when developing a textile.
And specifically with curtains in mind, is that to do with what we see at the front, or to do with the back of the curtain, the lining of the curtain? What is it that's actually protecting us?
Right throughout, yeah. So different technologies and possible textile constructions offer different forms of protection. Obviously, the face is what you see in the room. The face is the design or the colour that's obviously quite often got a bit of interest to it. You want that to last and not turn to an ombre of colour. So equal emphasis on the dye stuff, so the face of the fabric, but the rear of it is what takes the heat and the UV exposure. And what we have within all of our products, and this is an industry standard, is a rating, a scale of how you can identify the light fastness or the UV resilience of a product through a rating from 1 to 8. It's called the blue scale.
Is that something you developed, or is it an industry scale? No,
certainly haven't developed it. We've just adopted it as a metric or a identifier to how long a product should last.
Right.
It's not exact in regards to a certain rating out of 8 will last for this long, because every environment is so unique.
Yeah.
However, it gives us all an even metric to communicate along the scale from 1 to 8, and 8 being exceptional UV resilience, and very few textiles ever achieve that, that you can get an expectation that this is going to last longer than something that ranks far or lower down that scale. So to be more specific, we won't release anything that's sub a 4, which is a mediocre to or adequate result, but strive for 5s, 6s and 7s, depending on how that product's going to be used.
Are they tested specifically for New Zealand conditions, or is it an international standard?
It's an international standard. We do use local testing facilities. One of our most prominent is in Melbourne, so it's all independently tested. But no, the standard is consistent so that scale is uniformly lent on globally.
Okay, so kind of like how people do the energy efficiency star ratings for washers or something like that.
Yeah, comparable. Yeah.
So it's one thing to create these beautiful outcomes with the use of the products that you have, but they sort of have to be environments that have got people and kids and actually livable environments. So what kind of technologies are there that kind of protect things from stains and stain resistant sort of things?
There's been a real focus or demand from consumers for some time. So lots of both inherent and topical treatments. A lot of that demand comes from upholstery usage, pets, kids, exactly as you say. So within James Dunlop, a technology that we've been pioneering and embraced, it is a global technology, but for Australia and New Zealand, we are the champions of it, which is inherent stain repellency known as FibreGuard. It's a leading technology that is at a molecular level, at a yarn level. So the real benefits to this, beyond the intangibles and equally important factors of safety and non-toxicity, is that it's inherent down in amongst the weave. So topical treatments will be applied after a piece is produced, and as you can imagine, it will rest in amongst the weave, but it's very much so on the surface, and the longevity of that treatment will depend on its usage. As ours is down at a yarn level, it's inherent and will last the lifetime of that piece, and tested to 50 commercial washes, which will never be experienced within a home. So it just gives longevity and an inherent performance that is unparalleled, and that's definitely something that, with that ability to offer that, the demand on it is skyrocketing, and a lot of people just wanting a textile that already has all those simplistic, easy care factors without any secondary applications. Yeah,
because it's very common to buy a piece of furniture, for example, and they say the aftercare kit, and it's got the stain and this stuff you can spray over the top of it and so forth. And my concern was always, how long is it going to last? Is it there for 3 months or 6 months, or if we did have to wash it? So, in terms of investing into quality, that must be reassuring for the longevity for people.
Absolutely. And our first, we are a B2B company and partners and easy, reliable supply to upholstery furniture manufacturers and other businesses that champion those products. And fundamentally, they just want to offer something to consumers that's going to last. And that's what they're getting with FibreGuard.
Well, it's good to know in case, consumers are saying to people, hey, what have you made this with? And they say, well, it's actually been made with James Dunlop Textile. They know that they're getting that kind of reassurance from that molecular yarn level, which sounds very scientific.
It does,
for sure.
Yeah, well above my pay grade, yeah.
And is the same there from a safety perspective in terms of fire or flame? There's things in the house that can fall over, unfortunately, and create burns and things like that. How does that work?
Correct. So we have a love affair with natural fibres, but we equally understand the demands of basically building regulations and other needs, whether it be for peace of mind at home or the requirements of a commercial structure, whether it be hospitality, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. And we have ranges for all of that. And all of that comes down to yarn technology. And you can't have a fibre that is flame proof, but what you are certifying is it won't fuel a flame. So generally synthetics, 100% synthetics, with elements to it that will, or removing the oxygen from the fibre, basically carbonizing the fibre so that the flame won't have any oxygen to feed on. Okay. Yeah. So yes is the answer.
Starving it before it gets going.
Yeah, and so it'll shrivel up into a ball of synthetic, will not drip and carry that flame to another surface, and just it won't contribute to this flame. That's the standard we try to meet, we have to meet.
Yeah. I suppose from the layman's perspective, you think, it's got some protection so the flame actually can't kind of get onto it or touch it, but in fact, even if it does, it's not going to add to the fuel.
No, so it just retrenches from the flame.
Interesting.
Very aptly described or seen during the testing when they apply a flame, much like a candle flame, and then it just leaves a silhouette of the fabric. It retrenches, but then as soon as that heat area is, mitigated, it just stops. And that's that. So it just didn't contribute to starting a flame.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you touch on the use of outside the home, commercial and hospitality bits and pieces. So is there a consideration around antibacterial in the fabrics and stuff that you do as well?
Yep. There are technologies that can be applied at the yarn creation level to varying factors in that. Serviceability, elements of the yarn that bacteria don't attract themselves to. Most synthetic fibres are antibacterial. Then there's serviceability to remove dust and mildew and things that harbour the bacteria. So for that need, it's about launderability to a high temperature of 72 degrees or higher, which is where bacteria are killed during a washing process. So we have products that are resilient enough to handle that.
Wow. And so when you're having all this wonderful supply material, the consideration around the environment must be something that's pretty much at the forefront for you guys, because you've got a specific technology, the roll-fin technology, that's all about that sort of sustainability and eco. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So roll-fin, as it's been tagged.
Roll-fin, I apologize.
No, as a yarn fibre that can be obtained by anyone. It's not exclusive to James Dunlop, but it's one example of a recycled synthetic. So roll-fin is recycled olefin, which is a petroleum-based polyester equivalent, which is very resilient to outdoor UV exposure. So for outdoor products that may go onto alfresco dining areas or outdoor poolside environments. So roll-fin is one example of many yarn or synthetic yarns that are now coming through as recycled equivalents. And that, amongst other things around waste and packaging and logistics. But the fibre choices that we can now lean on for our products are becoming increasingly more sustainable by nature, because the loop is being closed between recovering either post-consumer waste or our byproducts of our industry and chipping them down, re-extruding them into synthetic fibres and reweaving them into fresh products with a recycled fibre. The flooring industry pioneered this, and mainly because the denier of the fibre or the thickness of the fibre, it was quite a coarse fibre and quite easy to extrude. With that technology being refined, we're getting soft, tactile, fine fibres coming through now that we can turn into our soft upholsteries or fine drapery fabrics at the window, which is a slightly different fibre requirement to the flooring. So we thank the flooring industry, and with that the technology's progressed, and we're now able to incorporate it into our textile offering. And one of our brands in particular, it's called Zepel Fabrics. We call it our innovator in-house. It's all about bringing technology into the brand, and that will be the largest offering of alternative or recycled fibres available to consumers here in Australia and New Zealand. Already is, and it's growing every collection. 90+% of what we are bringing to market now has 50+% recycled content or more, which is
fantastic.
It's a really nice position to be taking. We're not being asked of it yet. Consumers aren't demanding that attribute in the fabric, but we've taken a position of we should and we can, because it's available, and the actual impact to the consumer is nominal. We're talking single-digit percentage variances to the virgin polyester as a fibre. So why wouldn't you incorporate it and reduce the footprint on that product? So that's satisfying. That's rewarding to see. We're incorporating those yarns into our other brands also, but one particular brand is very much so championing that message.
Oh, it's nice to know you're taking that responsibility as a leader, even though not being demanded to do something that you see that's something you should be championing.
It's great to see other brands doing it also. It's become that accessible that other competing brands are driving that change, and that's we applaud that completely, and it's great to see.
So thinking of someone's home, it's one of those times when you're moving house or you're selling a house or buying a house, and you walk through empty houses and you've taken out the furniture and you kind of take out pieces and you look around, there's the curtains, there's the wallpapers, there's the things that you realize there's only a few components that really kind of make the feeling of your home. And so if we're thinking about curtains, for example, what advice would you give people when they're looking at what they can do? Because you've got B bends and S bends and all these kind of crazy ways the curtains can fold. You can have them short or long or full height, or, what do you tell people when they think, gosh, I have no idea what I should do with my curtain, and certainly the outcome of choosing the right, installation, what it can do for their home?
Navigating the selection side of textiles for a drapery or curtain solution is one of the most overwhelming experiences for a homeowner. The array of choice is just incredible. We have an incredibly broad range, and then there's the other ranges available. So I can completely empathise. It may sound cliche, but one of the best places to start for a consumer or for someone navigating that is with Pinterest boards and digital inspiration, and then taking that to a trusted industry professional and liaising or collaborating on how to make that image-rich portfolio a reality in home. There are so many variables, whether it be window size or outlook or ceiling height, tracks and hardware that the curtain sits on, to then dictate what pleat style, to your point, whether it be an S-wave or a French pleat or something more contemporary or traditional. There's so many variables. And so with that, I think letting fingers do the walking and just curating a portfolio of purely aesthetically driven outcomes, and then collaboration with a drapery professional, because then they will then reach to fibers of choice that suit that environment, whether it be exposure to sun or other elements. We've talked a lot about synthetics, and I just want to also articulate that we have such a phenomenal demand on linen. As Kiwis, as Australians, our love affair with the indoor-outdoor and bringing nature into the home is as strong as ever. And the linen fibre is an exceptional product. It's really it's one of nature's gifts for weaving. It's resilient to rotting, so therefore inherently resilient to UV degradation. And if you use great dye stuffs, can last equally long as a synthetic. But it breathes, it helps with humidity in the air and all sorts of good things. So we've talked a lot about technology, which is brilliant and super relevant, but beautiful cotton prints and luxurious linens that just are soft, and we love wearing them, so why not bring them into the home? Equally high demand. And they may not have some of the technical elements of stain-free or, for example, but great, strong fibres that will give you equal durability.
And does the linen product come with, in terms of patterns and the way you look at it, up close versus from far away, do you get a depth to the way the product looks in the home?
For sure. A lot of synthetics can emulate linen, but there's nothing like the real thing. And actually, yeah, it's a very true point. All natural fibres absorb dye a little uniquely, so you get these irregularities down the yarn, and you're right, it just gives it a colour dimension and depth that is very hard to emulate the real thing. Yeah.
And with curtains taking up, in some cases, a large space, a big plane in the view of your room, some people are, using it from a decorative point of view, others for privacy. So in terms of the different ways you can use your curtains to keep out the light, we talked about with UV and so forth, but are there ways that they can actually create a greater sense of privacy in a home that might have windows in a place that you may not want to have so much?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's probably one of the biggest consumer demands is privacy or light blocking attributes. So lots of different ways you can bring textile into a room and the benefits of it are numerous. So let's talk about privacy first. So quite often what you'll see is a curtain consultant will suggest 2 separate tracks running along the top of the window or up on the ceiling, so that you have the independence of pulling a privacy-like sheer that allows you to see through, but it diffuses the light and also provides some privacy during the day. And a second track with a heavier product, maybe lined with something to block the light completely, so that you could sleep during the day, and create some true light blocking privacy elements for at night. Because as soon as you turn the lights on inside, obviously they push through the glass. So that's one element. Then you have a really important one is wellness from an acoustic standpoint. A lot of clean, architecturally designed homes are hard treatments on the floor, and big sparse spaces that are obviously filled up with people, furniture and objects and time. But fabric, the more fabric that comes into a space, whether that be a rug on the floor or the carpet, but if that's not possible, window treatments with layers of fabric, it just pulls the harshness of the acoustics out of a space. And that's, I think, one of the biggest impacts I've seen in commercial environments, in particular restaurants, is as soon as a curtain's installed into the space in a really beautifully designed, sleek bar or restaurant, you can just talk to your partner with so much more ease.
Yeah, well, often in residential spaces, a lot more open plan living, connection between kitchen, dining, and the lounge room. So they're doing the heavy lifting, a little bit like the studio's doing here for us today, having some sound barriers even with the curtain. There's sort of something to at least help with that deadening of that noise and pinging of the sound across the room.
For sure. And then a third attribute, which is often overlooked but shouldn't be underestimated, especially with the climates here in New Zealand, further south you go, amazing insulation properties. So what you're doing is trapping, especially if it's floor to ceiling, wall to wall, that whole layer of textile creates a beautiful pocket of air between the glass and the curtain, and that helps regulate internal and external temperature changes. So obviously you can achieve similar outcomes with glazing and different degrees of glazing. This is just complementary and in addition to that. So even with the appropriate glazing solution, you can add to your energy efficiency from an insulation standpoint with the investment of curtains.
Yeah, so I mean, even from a cost saving point of view on the power bills, not having to use so much heat, but also healthy home in general, right, and keeping the house balanced.
Exactly.
Internally.
Yeah.
So thinking about other walls in the house,
yes,
and things like wallpaper, people are so quick to maybe throw paint on their wall because it seems like an easier solution. But wallpaper's got a number of different layers to it, if you excuse the pun. There are different materials it's made of. Some are better for certain spaces than others. So how do you approach people understanding wallpaper's opportunities as opposed to going, I'm just going to repaint the wall?
Sure. Taken great influence from a real trend in Europe and with some technological advances around the papers as well. So I'll allude to both. Firstly, yes, lots of different papers with different properties for different zones in the home. Some might be more resilient to moisture, so it can go in a bathroom. Some more decorative, so more for your bedroom, lounge and dry environments. Historically, the process was paint the paper. So paste the paper, let it set. It develops a tack. You're prepping the wall for that tack, and a specialist would come in and apply it. There are simpler wallpaper solutions now where you apply the glue to the wall, much like your undercoat of a paint solution, and with quite a fair and reasonable set time, so you've got plenty of flexibility, you can apply that plain wallpaper to your wall yourself, and it really does become cost comparable to 2 or 3 coats of paint, including an undercoat. So the European market has heavily adopted plain textured wall coverings, much like a few generations ago, as an alternative to paint, and with some versatility too. So you can apply one paper and then in a year or two, peel it off and apply something new. So interesting dynamic. It hasn't really caught on here, but in saying that, we are championing the message of affordable wallpaper solutions with ease of application, and and that's a market dynamic that's it's really catching on. So not just thinking about the feature wall with a bold pattern and leaving it to those sort of risque, brave decisions. It's all in every surface. And one of the key benefits to why is its durability, especially on corners, high wear corners, whether it be hallways or entrances. It's just got a robustness that compares exceptionally well against how prone paint is to chipping. And I know there's great technologies in that space also, but that's what our designers and trade are looking for, is window treatments that they're beautifully curated room is going to stand the test of time from a resilience standpoint. You can get thicker wall coverings that offer acoustic attributes as well. So maybe the room isn't so conducive to a curtain, and that is a common scenario. And you can put a wall covering in there that takes that harshness out of the room also.
Right. Okay, that's not something that I was aware you could actually do. So in terms of having a bit of thickness, actually, when you don't have space for the curtain, gives you that benefit. Yeah.
So different ranges will have different acoustic ratings, and some of them even, with those marketable properties for exactly that purpose. And so it just gives maybe a little dimension too, due to the padded nature of it to the wall, giving it a slightly embossed or 3D effect.
And in terms of the ranges you have, do the textiles and the wallpaper kind of work together so I can get a seamless connection between the different surfaces and different installations?
Correct, yeah. So within our premium residential brand Mokum, most of the papers that we produce emulate one of the bold patterns or designs and then colorings of the core textile range, so you get a cohesion through the scheme. And that's the same with all the lines we represent. So whether they be something we've developed or we represent from an international brand, there's always a synergy to the textile.
That's awesome. And just touching back on what you said earlier, where you can use the wallpaper, because you were talking about putting it in a bathroom because the material is actually designed for a more damper space or moist space.
Correct.
So that's not something that most people consider as an option for them.
Again, I implore you to let your fingers do the walking. Google, bathroom wall coverings. You can get some incredibly striking impacts out of simple hardware with a strong maximalist pattern in a bathroom or a tight space. It would freak a lot of people out, and I appreciate, but actually, when tastefully executed, looks stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, I should point out for people who want to Google or Pinterest, they can also go to trendsproperty.com to check out some great design ideas. You've got an international view of what's happening, and so specifically with something like wallpaper, are you seeing a trend in the way people are using patterns, designs, colours? Do they flow from overseas influence? Have we got our own style here in New Zealand? What's happening in the sense of where wallpaper design and that trend is going?
It actually complements the textile trend as well. So interior trends, lots of layering of rich texture. So there's been generations where maximalist pattern have come and gone. We went cool and grey and quite concrete based in aesthetic. Now we're warming up, but it's still with this underlying love affair for layering texture. So honestly, our most popular wall coverings are linen look or highly textural plains, bringing in a textural interest to the walls that complement a textural curtain or window treatment. It's great to see stronger colour choice coming through from our designers and consumers, people starting to get brave again, and with that wrapping themselves in beautiful sort of mineral tones like rust and ochre and chocolate browns and forest greens. Those are really popular colours within both our wall covering and drapery offerings as people commit to colour, but in a warm and cozy degree. Yeah.
And
one more trend, which we're seeing out of Europe is, and it's catching on, is wallpapering the fifth wall, which is the ceiling. So bringing pattern and texture to your ceilings. So not thinking about a room as four walls, but what can you do with that ceiling? And there's some great inspiration around that can be found online.
I'd never thought of that one either. That's okay. Yeah. So wallpaper the ceiling.
Yeah.
Probably using it up there and painting it.
Yeah. So I've seen amazing impact with beautiful tradition architraving and timber work, and then those negative details doing something quite graphic. And it may be to emulate further timber dimension, but actually it's a wallpaper creating that effect instead. So you can do it to different degrees, and it may be in contrast or in complement to some paint, and it just looks stunning. Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot of the positive, wonderful things, especially about what you guys do.
Yeah.
And if you and I were catching up at a dinner party, sitting across at a restaurant, and I said to you, I'm about to get on this property journey, and you say, before you do, there's some really common mistakes that people make when they go about trying to put their room together or the choices they're making. What are some of the ones that you've seen over the time that you think people should look to avoid?
Underestimating that wellness effect of bringing texture into a room, that taking the harshness out of a room from an acoustic standpoint does beautiful things to stress levels and well-being. So it's easy to go for quick, easy, flat, quite stark solutions because it's safe, especially if it's your first property renovation. It's quite easy to conceptualize what you're investing in, but layering fabrics and working with someone to help you navigate that with confidence just brings such a romance to the room and in turn well-being that is really easily underestimated. Another one is whether it be you're investing in it for your own satisfaction or getting ready for sale. A property that is beautifully treated from a window treatment standpoint and brings that element of calm, that sensory calm, people fall in love with it. And there's a real correlation between the energy and time that's gone into those window treatments and property value and success of sale, for sure. So I just implore people to reach out and seek assistance as opposed to feeling too overwhelmed to navigate it by themselves, and get someone, whether it be via a platform like Trends or just simple Google reviews, as to someone trusted, come in and have a consultation. Pretty much all industry professionals will offer a consultation of sorts, and it's worth its weight in gold. Yeah.
And is there an underestimation, or maybe we flip this so it's not a negative conversation because they were lovely negatives turn into a positive. the timelines that are involved with some of the, if I select something, how long should I expect for some of these things to be produced? Is it a day, a week, a month? How long does it normally take?
Sure. It's because they're typically bespoke treatments for each window in each room. There's a scale. I'd say as quick as 2 to 3 weeks and as slow as 10. So we're talking weeks for sure. Often it's the textile supplier that can put a stick in the spokes. So if the product's available and it flows through to manufacturing, because we are just a component of that finished solution, anywhere between, I'm going to say, 3 and 8 weeks is a standard lead time for a New Zealand manufacturing pipeline, and that will come in ebbs and flows depending on the demand of the facilities. There are professionals that sit on inventory and pride themselves on a prompt turnaround and installation, and that can be as short as 10 working days.
Hey, well, Dan, thanks so much for sitting down and, chatting with us today. I think there's a lot of insight that will, get people to start to think, to explore, to ask the right questions. I suppose that's what it's got to be about for people, right? Is getting in there and knowing what they're looking for.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, firstly. Great questions. It's been stimulating and nice to put myself in the shoes of a consumer for a change. But there's some excellent industry professionals around the country there to help. So I implore people to reach out and start, and collaborate on the journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Pleasure.
And thanks to you for spending some time with us. Don't forget, you can find all our episodes on our platform by visiting trendsproperty.com. Here you can browse ideas and inspiration, products, people and places offering solutions for you on your property journey. Remember, you can sign up and join the Trends Property community, where you can connect, collect and collaborate with others, or take advantage of our educational guides and courses to help you take the right steps in the right direction. As always, thanks for listening. We hope to see you next time on the Trends Property Insight series, where we help you find your place, your way. Ka kite. Goodbye.